Hello, my name is Aqsa Ijaz, and I teach Persian, Urdu, and Punjabi here at the University of Toronto Mississauga. I'm a scholar of classical Persian literature, and I study the reception of Nizami of Ganj in pre-modern India. I grew up in Lahore, Pakistan, with a wonderful family. I had been very fortunate to have been raised by my father, who was a businessman and a very gifted singer, and my mother, who was a homemaker, but really instilled in me all the love of stories and poetry and music. The most wonderful part about my childhood was having the company of my grandparents. My grandfather moved from India to Pakistan at the time of the partition of India in 1947. He was this amazing repository of stories and anecdotes and philosophies that one can only have if one grew up in pre-partitioned India. He spoke 6 languages, and he loved reading Rumi. He loved reading Bulle Shah, a very famous Punjabi poet, and there was not a single sentence he said that didn't have poetry in it. And my grandmother came from Kashmir, and she of course moved to Lahore with my grandfather at the time of partition. The Pakistan has this huge tradition of Persian to Qawwali. So in this poster, as you can see, there are language families represented. You have this tree here, whose root is the Indo-European languages, and one branch goes to the Indo-European side, the other one is Indo-Iranian, Indo-Aryan, and so on. So on this left side, you can see Persian with all its adjacent dialects like Tajiki, Lori, and then you have Kurdish on this side, you have Baluchi, and others. So I usually show this poster to my students when we are beginning our language courses. I teach Persian and Punjabi here and Urdu as well. So students, when they realize that all these languages are connected in some way, they visualize it, so they feel very excited about it. So if they can learn one language, they can learn the other language, and so on. So I went to my high school at Kanade, which is one of the most amazing schools in Lahore. Following my schooling, I fell in love with the idea of flying. I decided that I wanted to follow in the footsteps of my great-grandfather, who was in the British Army, but I wanted to fly a plane. I wanted to join the Air Force. It was scary, it was very, very threatening, intimidating, and that's precisely why I had to do it. And it was amazing, my instructor was great. I was one of the 2 women who were part of the cohort. The training, the combat, learning to fence, shooting, all those things were amazing. But I think the lesson for me was to learn the art of self-restraint, discipline, and showing up for life. By the time I decided to give up on my training as a fighter pilot, I decided to join the university in Lahore. I was very fortunate to have been accepted at Government College University, which is one of the most prestigious schools in South Asia. And I studied English literature as my major, and philosophy as my second major, and French as my minor. And I just fell in love with the fact that there are ideas in the world, and ideas have power, and ideas can change the world, and ideas can free us. also continued my training as a musician at the Nazir Ahmed Musical Society at Government College. Initially, my father trained me as a classical musician, and then at the Nazir Ahmed Music Society, I was part of this wonderful ensemble of professors and instrumentalists who performed with me every week and cultivated my voice even further. This was, I think, really it formed me very deeply. It shaped me very deeply as a scholar. My cello is the object that I feel very attached to, and there is a reason for this attachment. It's not the kind of attachment that you have in a very possessive way. It's the attachment that I know is expanding me as a person. You know, the cello provides me the resonance of my life. After I finished my undergraduate degree at Government College, I was invited at the University of Erfurt to participate at the summer school called Muslims in the West. Now, this was a summer school which had a very political reason to have come into existence. After the tragic event of 9/11, there were many places in the world that were interested in understanding what's going on, right? Because one after effect of this event was the lives of the Muslims all over the world became under some kind of microscope, right? Suddenly being Muslim became a synonym of being a terrorist, right? People had to justify their beliefs. They felt ashamed. I felt ashamed of my spiritual beliefs. So this is a place at the University of Erfurt's Religious Studies department where I have friends, where I have like scholars coming from Bosnia, from India, from Pakistan, from Saudi Arabia, from the Middle East, speaking like, you know, Egypt. I have Muslims coming from Algiers. It's like they speak French as their first language. Some of them speak Arabic as their first language. My own first language was Urdu, but obviously we were all speaking English at the time. It was just a very, very unique experience to meet all of these people in one place. So it was at that time I decided that I wanted to study the Islamic world. So this is a time when I was interested in studying film, and I was actually working. My project in the summer school was to document and present about the films made on the situation of Muslims in Europe. So anyway, really this was the time, this whole experience of being in Germany, learning the German language at the time as well, it just kind of propelled me more in the direction of finding something that I can study for the rest of my scholarly career. After I came back from Germany, I was offered my first teaching position was at my alma mater, which was at Government College. And my job was to teach classics of world literature in the Department of Philosophy and Interdisciplinary Studies. At that time, I was 21 years old. And when my professor, Mirza Beg, who's a very, very well-known Urdu novelist in Pakistan, he asked me to join the department as a lecturer. And my first teaching assignment was, among other writers of world classics tradition, to teach Rumi and his Masnavi. And this is the time when I didn't know any Persian per se, but I knew Rumi very well because I inherited the stories of the Masnavi in Urdu through my grandfather. During that time, I finished doing my master's and I went to the United States as the American Institute of Pakistan Studies Fellow. And this was a pre-doctoral fellowship that was given to me by the Institute. I met some wonderful professors in the field of religious studies, in the field of South Asian studies, in the field of Persian studies. So I decided to learn Persian. تو پای به راه در نه و از هیچ مپرس خود راه بگویدت که چون باید رفت. Like you set your foot on the path and do not ask anything, do not question anything. خود راه بگویدت, the path itself is going to tell you that how you must move or how you should move or continue. Professor Francis Pritchard, whom I met at Columbia University during my brief sojourn as an American Institute of Pakistan Studies Fellow, drew my attention to a very unique niche in my scholarly profile, or in what she saw as my scholarly profile. At the time, I was interested in working on 20th century Urdu novel, and she said, no, I think you should explore the pre-modern tradition. You should find a program which cultivates your philological capacities, enables you to learn pre-modern languages, and allows you to explore the pre-modern tradition like from way back then, 20th century. And she told me one thing. She said, you cannot say anything meaningful about 20th century literature unless you know where is this literature rooted. And then she suggested that there is an Institute of Islamic Studies at McGill University in Canada, in Montreal. And this is a place where you can have the kind of training that you should be getting. And I should say that in 2017, when I moved to Montreal from Lahore, this was, I think, the next episode of my intellectual journey. I had really intense coursework. The Institute is not an easy place to train, but I think in the end it all paid off. I had some tears, some wounds, there were some injuries, and you don't come out of a PhD program unscathed, right? But I think it was all worth it. It was all worth it. I realized that it trained me into a scholar. It made me become a scholar, a scholar in the traditional Latin sense of the word, the one who seeks. In Urdu we have a word for being a student that's called talib-e-ilm, and that means the seeker of knowledge, right? Or in Farsi, danishju, somebody who looks for wisdom, who seeks wisdom. Fencing is my hobby. In Farsi, we call it shamshir bazi. I was trained for it in my teens, but I think when I want to get away from the demands of my work and the demands of my day, this is the place I go to unwind. The reason I do it is because fencing is a very strategic game. I also think of it as an extension of Sokhan Bazi. It's like how the back and forth in words, in language, imitates the back and forth of fencing. At this place, at the Institute of Islamic Studies, where I decided that I wanted to propose a dissertation on Nizami of Ganj and his reception in the Islamic world. So I particularly focused on the reception history of Khusro wa Shirin, the second Masnavi from his Khamsa, the quintet. The project I did was to show that reception of Nizami was not only in the spirit of imitation, the notion of taqleed. That was not the case. I argued that it was in the spirit of tahqiq, wherein the later retellers of Nizami's poems were actually in dialogue, in a critical dialogue with their literary predecessors. And this dialogue was on the nature of love and the experience of love in human condition. This is a very special book. It's a graphic novel called Majnoon and Layla, Songs from Beyond the Grave. So it is an illustrated retelling from a French artist called Yann Damizin, who retold Nizami's Layli o Majnoon into French from the perspective of Layla and from the time after Majnoon dies. It's a very interesting book. So when the American publisher of the book contacted me to translate this book from French to English for the American audiences, I very happily agreed and brought this book from French into English with a co-translator, a professor at UCLA, Professor Thomas Harrison, with whom I co-translated it from French into English. And I think now I'm working on a book, my first monograph. It's tentatively titled "Shaping the Language of Love: The Afterlife of Nizami Ganjavi's Khusro Shirin in Pre-Modern India." And this book will be the avenue where I will showcase my research and try to show that a poem never dies, and it is living, and there are reasons for this afterlife, and those reasons have very little to do with the elite mechanisms of canonization. It has to do with how deeply the poem touched its historical readers and how it provoked their readers, its readers, to respond to it. So the second book project that I'm working on is on the aesthetics of negation and negativity in Persian, Punjabi, and Urdu poetry. And one of the things that I found out during my research, ongoing research for the project, is a very beautiful, very popular poem by an 18th century Punjabi poet, Bulleh Shah. Now, Bulleh Shah is a remarkable figure at this very particular historical period in the pre-modern world. His poetry speaks to our shared humanity. His poetry speaks to the idea that we don't own anything in the world. Ultimately, we don't have any control of anything in the world. So this is a very peculiar place on UTM campus. I recently discovered it. If you see, it's almost kind of a congregational space, as if, people would gather together here. There are these like 4 speakers here, and every time you pass by, you hear some very indigenous sounds coming from it. And even now, if you pay attention, you hear. Well, I came to UFT, I think in September 2022, and I was still a graduate student in Montreal, and I was finishing my PhD, and I got this position offered here, and I just thought, well, why not? We should explore more of Canada. It was hard to leave Montreal, and there was a transition phase, but I think I feel very happy that I made that decision, and I haven't regretted even a single day. The kind of opportunities I got to work with, the projects like the Global Past Research Initiative, and all the things I did with the Near and Middle Eastern Studies Department, especially the Elahe Omidyar Mir-Djalali Institute of Iranian Studies, the faith, the amazing faith that Professor Tawakkuli has in me. I continue to explore my own potential here because my senior colleagues have so much faith in me and so much confidence in my abilities as a scholar. The most amazing and the most enjoyable part of my job at the University of Toronto Mississauga is to teach Persian language and Punjabi, because teaching a language that you have learned at very late in your life is a huge achievement. I would like to share a very beautiful poem from a 13th century Indo-Persian poet, Amir Khusro of Delhi. When it is made clear that this wealth amounts to nothing, each nothing, how many more twists will you endure for this nothing? Make non-existence your sustenance, for this world is not sufficient. Worry about the day of death, for the worry of today is nothing.